different. But let's talk about, rebels calling you the African father. How did that make you feel when you're, disarming some of these rebels?
In my commitment in the West African region, for example, to disarm rebels, one of the things that I did was to try and get to understand them, and to ensure that I am able to communicate with them as a person, and sometimes as, a soldier that I was, and they themselves were rebels, or as my children sometimes. And you have to win them from being rebels and to being people who can bring peace to their own country. And I think that is where they, they got to respect me, and I also got to be able to communicate with them in a language that they understood, and the language that, was best, for me to use.
Hence the tag name of the African father.
Exactly.
All right, and just before we, cross over to the discussion of talking about your book, let me just ask you a question. When you're disarming some of these rebels, and it's good you've also said that you're part of the, the team that's been working on ensuring that South Sudan becomes stabilized. At what point did you decide to use the military, force to disarm some of these rebels? And at what point did you see it fit to use a political way of, trying to bring peace?
It is easier if, people can disarm because they believe that solution of their, a problem, can be solved peacefully. In other words, politically, peacefully. Rather than me, for example, with my troops going there to enforce, peace. So in most cases, I would have liked, to see to it that I talk to them, I talk to their political leaders, and see that the political leaders are on the side of peace and stability of the country. They themselves make their rebels, to be disarmed to me. But sometimes, you go and talk to the political leaders and they say, yes, we are going to do it, and they do nothing about it.
And we've seen some of the political leaders not even honoring some of the peace deals they've signed.
Exactly. They themselves sign the peace deals, but when it comes to now effecting that peace deal, they don't do it.
So is that part of what you've captured in your book, In Pursuit of Peace in Africa?
Exactly. That is one of the things that I have mentioned in my book. In other words, it is good for conflicts to be, ended through a dialogue, through political dialogue, rather than through using, force. But when dialogue fails, you as a peacekeeper has to have something, that you can use to ensure that the rebels, turn in their weapons. And we did that.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. And one would wonder, you've spent your time, your years, 42 years and plus, serving in peacekeeping missions. And someone would wonder, probably right now the job you'd be doing is working probably with you continue working with the UN peacekeeping missions to try and offer advice, or, sit there and to try and guide some of their, soldiers who are out there doing that work. But what made you to sit down and say, no, I need to write about peace in Africa?
42 years of service, both as a military man, mostly as a military man, is a long time, Brenda. And as such, I thought that I should now do something else. My experiences, the experiences that I have gained, especially in these countries where there was no peace, but we were able to help them realize, peace. If I did put it in a book like the one that I have, maybe it will help others, also to do the same.
So now here you have it. Lieutenant General, if I may just have the book. It is Lieutenant General Daniel Opande. In Pursuit of Peace in Africa, your autobiography. And this book entails, from your childhood to the time you worked as a peacekeeping mission in the Keep Peacing mission in different African countries, and also now that you've retired. But at the end of the day, as I probably buy this book, sit down and read it as a person, what is your target?
My target is young people, old people, military people, and civilians, because it does not only talk about me as Opande, it is us. And in peacekeeping, it was not Opande alone. I had many men and women serving with me, most of them in uniform and others not in uniform. They are the heroes rather than me. They are the heroes. The soldiers, for example, our Kenyan soldiers who went with me in peacekeeping, or from other countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, the UK and all those are the heroes. Me, I was just a leader. So I wanted this book to go to percolate throughout, if possible, in Africa, so that people can read about, my journey.
And even as they read about your journey, I'm sure it's a book that you'd want even some of the African leaders in some of the war-torn countries to get a hold of it.
In fact, I won't tell you which African leaders already have the book, but there are some current and retired, presidents who are already have the book, and I believe they're reading it.
And when I opened this book, there's this quote that really caught my eye, and it says, "I hope that my story will inspire others to live upright lives and serve as an example for future generations. No matter your beginning, you too can accomplish great things if you work hard and strive for excellence in all that you do for humanity."
Thank you very much for quoting, that point. I do believe that all of us, we are human beings, and we need to do right. We need to love one another. We need to embrace one another. And if you are able to do that, we may not be having these conflicts, amongst us. Whether it is in our own country or other countries in Africa. And that is why I put that word.
And that is why you put this point.
Yes.
And okay, as we bring this conversation to an end also, my question is, where can I get this book?
The book is now available in most of these bookshops in Kenya, outlets, or if one does not get it from there, then the publisher, which is the East African Educational Publishers, will be quite willing to send the books, to whoever. But they're available, all over now, not only in Nairobi, but in Eldoret, in Kisumu, Mombasa.
It's all over.
It is all over now.
Let's finish this conversation on a light note. Given a chance, would you want to go back to what you were doing?
I tend to believe that time has come when I need to, to rest. I've rested since I, came back from peacekeeping, missions. But rest is as good than, continue to work until you fall down dead. So even if I were given a chance now, I can, help, assist where I am. Giving advice and this kind of things, talk shows, but going back in uniform and disarming rebels, I think that is not my take.
It's not anymore. Your take right now anymore.
No.
So your colleagues, or rather your former colleagues and your current colleagues, know you as Lieutenant General Daniel Opande. Rebels know you as the African father. The UN peacekeeping mission know you as a peacekeeper. So, and right now we know you as an author. So what do you do apart from, writing the book? What do you do at your free time?
I enjoy my grandchildren, friends, traveling, and I play a little bit of golf. That keeps me going. And talking to people like you.
And talking to people like me. So, ladies and gentlemen, this book, In Pursuit of Peace in Africa by Lieutenant General General Opande, will be launched tomorrow here in Nairobi, just giving us a brief of his life as a peacekeeper in different African countries, Namibia, Sierra Leone, Mozambique, Liberia, and the sort of challenges that the African continent faces when it comes to peace.